I dropped my husband off at the airport thinking it was just another business trip, but just as I was about to leave, my 6-year-old son squeezed my hand tightly and whispered, "Mom, don't go home. This morning, I heard Dad planning something really bad against us. Please, this time, believe me." I did believe him, and we hid, and what I saw next sent me into a full-blown panic. But before I continue, make sure you are already subscribed to the channel and write in the comments. Where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. The fluorescent lights of Newark Liberty International Airport were hurting my eyes that Thursday night. I was tired, with that kind of tiredness that comes from within, you know? It's not just lack of sleep. It's a soul exhaustion that I had been dragging around for months without truly understanding why. My husband, Robert, was next to me with that perfect smile he always wore in public. Impeccable gray suit, leather briefcase in hand, expensive cologne that I had given him myself on his last birthday. In the eyes of anyone at that terminal, we were the ideal couple. He, the successful executive. I, the devoted wife taking him to the airport before an important business trip. If they only knew. Next to me, his sweaty little hand holding mine tight, was Ethan, my 6-year-old son, my whole world. He was too still that night, quieter than normal. And let me tell you, Ethan was always an observant kid, one of those who prefers to watch rather than participate. But that night, there was something different in his eyes, a fear I couldn't name. "This meeting in Chicago is crucial, honey," Robert said, pulling me in for a calculated hug. Everything about him was calculated, only I didn't know it yet. 3 days tops and I'll be back. You've got everything covered here, right? Covered everything, as if my life was only that, holding everything together while he built his empire. But I smiled. I smiled like I always smiled, because that's what was expected of me. "Of course we'll be fine," I replied, feeling Ethan squeeze my hand even harder. Robert knelt in front of our son. He put both hands on his shoulders the way he always did when he wanted to look like the perfect father. "And you, champ, you take care of Mommy for me?" Ethan didn't answer. He just nodded his head, his eyes fixed on his father's face. That look was as if he was memorizing every detail, every feature, as if he were seeing Robert for the last time. I should have noticed. I should have felt that something was wrong right then and there. But we never notice the red flags when they come from the person we love, do we? We think we know the person, that after 8 years of marriage, nothing can surprise us. How naive I was. Robert kissed Ethan's forehead, then mine. "I love you both. See you soon." And then he turned around, grabbed his carry-on, and walked toward the boarding gate. Ethan and I stood there, amidst that crowd of farewells and reunions, watching him disappear. When I finally couldn't see Robert anymore, I took a deep breath. "Come on, son, let's go home." My voice came out tired. I just wanted to get home, take off the uncomfortable heels I had put on to look more presentable, and maybe watch something on television until I fell asleep. We started walking down the long airport corridor, our steps echoing on the marble floor. Ethan was even quieter now, and I could feel the tension in his small body through the little hand holding mine. "Everything okay, sweetie? You're so quiet today." He didn't answer right away. We kept walking, passing closed stores, flight schedule boards, people rushing by dragging suitcases. It was only when we got near the exit, when the automatic glass doors were in sight, that he stopped. He stopped so abruptly that I almost tripped. "Ethan, what is it?" That's when he looked at me. And God, that look. I will never forget it. It was pure terror. That kind of fear a 6-year-old shouldn't even know. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling. "We can't go home." My heart did a strange flip in my chest. I crouched down in front of him, holding his little arms. "What do you mean, no, son? Of course we're going home. It's late. Do you need to sleep?" "No." His voice came out louder, desperate. Some people turned their heads to look at us. He swallowed hard and continued, now in an urgent whisper. "Mom, please. We can't go back. Believe me this time. Please." Believing a child takes courage, but sometimes a parent's most vital role is to listen without judgment. A child's instinct, especially one based on observation like Ethan's, should never be dismissed simply because the truth is uncomfortable. It's a core responsibility to create a family environment where truth is safe, even when it involves challenging an authority figure. This is how we teach our children the value of their own voice and the importance of self-protection. Those two words, this time, hurt, because it was true. Weeks ago, Ethan had told me he saw a strange car parked in front of our house. The same car, 3 nights in a row. I told him it was a coincidence. Days later, he swore he had heard Dad speaking quietly in the home office about solving the problem once and for all. I told him it was work matters, that he shouldn't listen to adult conversations. I didn't believe him, and now he was begging me, with tears beginning to form in those brown eyes. This time, believe me. "Ethan, explain. What is happening?" My voice sounded firmer than I felt inside. He looked around as if he was afraid someone might hear him. Then he pulled my arm, making me lean even closer to him, and whispered in my ear. "This morning, really early, I woke up before everyone. I went to get water and heard Dad in his office. He was on the phone. 'Mom,' he said that tonight, when we were asleep. Something bad was going to happen, that he needed to be far away when it happened, that we weren't going to be in his way anymore." My blood ran cold. "Ethan, are you sure? Are you sure what you heard?" He nodded his head, desperate. He said that there were people who were going to take care of it. He said he was finally going to be free. Mom, his voice. It wasn't Dad's voice. It was different. Scary. My first instinct was to deny it, to say it was his imagination, that he had misunderstood, that Robert would never. But then I remembered things, little things I had ignored. Robert increasing the life insurance 3 months ago, saying it was just a precaution. Robert insisting that I put everything, the house in San Diego, the car, even the joint account, only in his name. It makes taxes easier, honey. Robert getting angry when I mentioned I wanted to go back to work. It's not necessary. I take care of everything. The strange calls he would answer locked in his office, the increasingly frequent trips, and that conversation I overheard accidentally 2 weeks ago when I thought he was asleep. He was mumbling on the phone. "Yes, I know the risk, but there's no other way. It has to look like an accident." At the time, I convinced myself it was about work, about some risky business deal. But what if it wasn't? I looked at Ethan, at that terrified face, the rolling tears, the trembling little hands, and I made the most important decision of my life. "It's okay, son. I believe you." The relief that washed over his face was instantaneous, but short-lived. Then what are we going to do? Good question. My brain was racing. If Ethan was right, and every cell in my body was starting to scream that he was, going home was a death sentence. But where to go? Whose house? All our friends were Robert's friends too. My family lived in another state. What if I was wrong? What if it was all a terrible misunderstanding? But what if I wasn't? "We're going to the car," I decided, "but we're not going home. We're going to watch, from far away, just to be sure, okay?" Ethan nodded his head. I took his hand again, and we walked to the parking garage. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear the blood pulsing in my ears. Every step seemed to weigh a ton. The cold night air hit me as we left the airport. The parking garage was dimly lit, with only a few scattered cars. Ours was in a corner, a silver sedan that Robert had insisted on buying last year. A safe car for my family, he said. Safe. What a bitter joke. We opened the car and got in. I buckled Ethan in, then myself. My hands were shaking so much it took me 3 tries to start the engine. "Mom?" Ethan's voice was small in the back seat. "Yes, my love. Thank you for believing me." I looked in the rearview mirror. He was hunched in the seat, hugging the dinosaur backpack he took everywhere. "I'm always going to believe you, son. Always." And in that moment, I realized I should have said that before. I should have listened to him from the beginning. I drove in silence. I didn't go straight home. I took an alternate route, a parallel street that gave a view of our street without us being easily seen. I found a dark spot between 2 large trees and parked. From there, we could see our house in San Diego. Everything looked normal. The street lights illuminated the sidewalk, our well-kept yard, the patio where Robert and I drank coffee on Sundays, Ethan's bedroom window with the Star Wars curtains he had chosen. Home. Our home. Or at least that's what I thought. I turned off the engine and the car lights. Total darkness. Total silence, except for our breathing. "And now we wait," I whispered. Ethan didn't say anything. He just kept looking out the window, his eyes fixed on the house. And so we stayed, waiting, not knowing that in less than an hour, everything I thought I knew about my life was going to fall apart. The clock on the dashboard read 10:17 p.m. when I started questioning if I wasn't being completely ridiculous. There I was, hiding on a dark street with my 6-year-old son, watching my own house as if we were spies in a bad movie. What kind of mother does this? What kind of wife suspects her own husband of what, exactly? I couldn't even form the complete thought in my head. It was too absurd. Robert never laid a hand on me. He never yelled at Ethan. He was a present father, a providing husband. But was he a loving husband? The question came out of nowhere and took me by surprise. When was the last time he looked at me with genuine affection? That he asked how my day was and truly wanted to hear the answer? That he touched me without it being mechanical, automatic? When was the last time I felt loved and not just maintained? "Mom, look!" Ethan's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. My heart jumped. "What? What did you see?" "Over there, that car." I followed the direction of his small finger. A car was turning onto our street, but it wasn't just any car. It was a dark van with no decals, no visible front license plate. The windows were tinted, so dark that it was impossible to see who was inside. The van slowed down as it passed the houses, too slow for someone just passing through. It was as if it was searching. My breath caught in my throat when the van stopped, exactly in front of our house. "No way," I whispered. "It can't be." But it was. The 2 front doors opened. 2 men got out. Even from far away, even with the poor lighting, you could see they weren't technicians or delivery drivers or anything normal. They wore dark clothes, hooded jackets, and the way they moved was stealthy, calculated. They stood for a moment in front of our gate, looking around. Respecting a child's boundary is crucial, and listening to their intuition, as I finally did, is a powerful act of love and protection. While we often teach children to respect adults, it's vital to also teach them that their personal safety and truth are more important than any social rule. We must establish for them that no one, not even a parent, has the right to make them feel unsafe or to silence their fears. My instinct was to scream, call the police, do something. But I was paralyzed, watching as if it were a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. One of them, the taller one, reached into his pocket. I expected him to pull out a crowbar, some tool to force entry. That would be a burglary. I could deal with a burglary. I could call the police, file a report, move on. But what he pulled out of his pocket made my world crash down. A key. He had a key to our house. "Mom," Ethan's voice trembled. "How do they have the key?" I couldn't answer. I was too busy trying not to throw up. The man opened the gate as if he owned the place. No forcing, no breaking. He just opened it. And then he walked up to the front door where he repeated the process. Another key. The door opened smoothly. Only 3 people had a key to our house. Me, Robert, and the spare key that was in his office, in the locked desk drawer. The 2 men entered my house, the house where I slept yesterday, where I made Ethan breakfast this morning, where I felt safe. They didn't turn on the lights. I could see beams of flashlights dancing behind the curtains. They were looking for something. Or worse, they were preparing something. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, watching. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. Time had lost meaning. All that existed was that vision. 2 strangers inside my house, with keys only my husband could have given them. Then I smelled it. At first I thought I was imagining it, but it got stronger. A chemical smell, strong, gasoline. "Mom, what's that smell?" Ethan asked. And that's when I saw it. Smoke. It started small, just a thin thread coming out of the living room window, then another, from the kitchen window, and then I saw the glow, that sinister orange glow that can only mean one thing: fire. "No." I got out of the car without thinking. "No, no, no." Ethan's hand pulled me back. "Mom, don't. You can't go over there." He was right. I knew it. But it was my house, my things, the photos from when Ethan was born, the wedding dress stored in the closet, the drawings Ethan made that I taped to the refrigerator, the blanket my grandmother wove before she died. Everything. Burning. The flames grew fast, terrifyingly fast. In a matter of minutes, the living room was totally engulfed. The fire licked the walls, shattered the windows, climbed to the 2nd floor where Ethan's room was. That's when the sirens started. Someone must have seen the smoke, called the fire department. The dark van sped away, lights off, disappearing around the corner seconds before the first fire truck appeared. I was shaking so much I could barely stand. Ethan was hugging me from behind, his face buried in my back, sobbing. "Ethan was right," I murmured. "You were right, son. You were right." If we had gone home, if I hadn't believed him, we would be in there now, sleeping, not knowing, and those men would have. I couldn't complete the thought. My legs gave out and I fell to my knees right there, in the middle of the dark street, watching my life turn to ashes. My cell phone vibrated in my pocket. With trembling hands, I took it out. It was a message from Robert. "Honey, I just landed. Hope you and Ethan are sleeping well. Love you. See you soon." I read the message once, twice, 3 times. Every word was a knife. Every heart emoji was poison. He knew. Of course he knew. He was in another state, building his perfect alibi, while he hired people to kill us, to burn us alive while we slept. And then he would return as the devastated husband, the grieving father. He would cry at the funeral. He would receive condolences, and he would keep everything, the life insurance, the house, or what was left of it, the bank account, free. That was what Ethan heard him say on the phone. I'm finally going to be free. Free of me. Free of his son. The nausea came on strong. I turned around and threw up right there on the sidewalk. Everything in my stomach came out, along with any illusion I still had about my marriage. When I finally stopped, I wiped my mouth with the sleeve of my blouse and looked at Ethan. He was sitting on the sidewalk, hugging his knees, watching the house burn. Tears rolled down his little face, but he wasn't sobbing anymore. He was just watching. A 6-year-old shouldn't have that expression. That terrible, premature understanding that people who should love you can want to harm you. I sat next to him and pulled him into a tight embrace. "I'm sorry," I whispered into his hair. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I'm sorry for everything." He clung to me as if I were the only solid thing in a world that had flipped upside down, and maybe I was. "What are we going to do now, Mom?" That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? What do you do when you discover that the man who promised to love and protect you actually wants to see you dead? We couldn't go home. There wasn't even a house to go back to. We couldn't go to the police. Robert had an ironclad alibi, and it was just me and the word of a 6-year-old against his. We couldn't go to friends or family. Everyone would think I was crazy, in shock from the fire, inventing things. And Robert? Robert was free, flying back at that very moment, probably practicing the expression of shock and sadness he was going to use when he discovered the tragedy. We needed help. Help from someone Robert didn't know. Someone who could understand. Someone who knew how to deal with what? Attempted murder? Conspiracy to kill? That's when I remembered. My dad, before he died 2 years ago, had given me a card. It was a difficult day, right after his cancer diagnosis. He called me into the hospital room, took my hand and said, "Mary, I don't trust that husband of yours. Never did. If you ever need help, real help, look for this person." The card had a name, Jimena Hernandez, attorney at law, and a phone number. At the time, I was offended. How could my dad not trust Robert? Robert, who was so attentive to him, who visited him at the hospital, who paid for the best doctors. But now I understood. My father saw something I refused to see, and he left me a way out. I grabbed my cell phone again. The battery was at 23%. I needed to make a decision fast. "Ethan, do you remember that card Grandpa gave me? The one I kept in my wallet?" He nodded his head. "I'm going to call the person on it. She's going to help us. At least, that's what I hoped." With trembling fingers, I dialed the number. 3 rings. 4. It was about to go to voicemail when a female voice, hoarse but firm, answered. "Hello? Jimena? My name is Mary. Mary Olvera. You don't know me, but my father was Robert Olvera. He gave me your number. I need a lot of help." There was a pause. Then, "Mary, Robert told me about you. Where are you?" My house just burned down. I'm on the street with my son, and my husband tried to kill us." Another pause, longer. When she spoke again, the voice was different, more urgent. "Are you safe now? Can you drive?" "Yes." "Then write down this address." Jimena's office was in an old building in downtown Philadelphia, the kind of place you walk past without noticing. It didn't have a flashy sign, just a small, faded plaque. J. Hernandez, Legal Consulting. It was almost midnight when I parked in front. The street was deserted, only a few working lights. Ethan had fallen asleep in the back seat during the drive, exhausted from crying. I had to carry him in my arms. Before I could ring the bell, the door opened. A woman was there. She must have been in her 60s, gray hair pulled back in a bun, glasses hanging from a chain. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, as if she had been woken up, but her eyes were alert, analyzing every detail of me and Ethan. Mary? Yes. Come in quickly. I obeyed. She closed the door behind us with 3 different locks. The office smelled of old books and strong coffee. There were piles of files everywhere, old archives, a table covered in papers. Put the boy on the sofa over there, she instructed. There's a blanket on the chair. I carefully laid Ethan down, covered him. He was still sleeping, his face still marked by tears. Coffee? She offered. I was going to refuse, but she was already pouring 2 cups. She handed me one and pointed to the chair in front of her desk. Sit down and tell me everything, from the beginning, omitting nothing. And I told her. I told her about Robert's trip, about Ethan's whisper at the airport, about the decision to hide and watch the house, the men with the keys, the fire, Robert's message pretending concern while knowing we should be dead. Jimena didn't interrupt me once. She just listened, her fingers intertwined under her chin, her eyes fixed on me. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. Your father asked me to look out for you if anything like this happened, she finally said. Robert was a very smart man. He noticed things about your husband that you didn't want to see. That hurt, but it was true. Did he know? Did he know Robert was capable of this? He suspected that Robert wasn't who he pretended to be, that he married you for money, that he was dangerous. She took a sip of coffee. Robert left me some things, documents, information about you and about Robert. I thought I would never need to use them, but she stood up and went to a locked cabinet. She pulled out a thick folder and returned, placing it on the table between us. Your father hired a private investigator 3 years ago, discreetly, to look into Robert's business. My heart sank. And what did they find? Debts. A lot of debt. Gambling mainly. Your husband has a serious problem, Mary. He owes loan sharks, illegal casinos, very dangerous people. She opened the folder, showing bank statements, photos, reports. His businesses have been bankrupt for 2 years. He's been using your mother's inheritance money to plug the holes, but it's almost all gone. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. My mother's inheritance, $300,000 she left me, which I put in a joint account because we're married, honey. What's mine is yours. He spent everything, down to the last dollar. She turned a page. And now the lenders are collecting, with interest. Robert owes almost $1 million. People like that don't negotiate, Mary. They either pay or... She didn't need to complete the sentence. But I don't have that money. We don't. So why did he... Life insurance, she simply said. You have a life insurance policy for $2 million. Your father insisted on that when you got married, remember? He said it was important to protect you and a future grandchild. I remembered. I remembered Robert thinking it was excessive at the time, but agreeing. I never questioned. I never thought. And if I died in an accident, I continued the reasoning, feeling bile rise in my throat. Robert would receive the $2 million. He would pay the debts. He would be free. Exactly. Jimena closed the folder. And a fire is the perfect kind of accident. Hard to prove it was intentional. Hard to trace. And he has the perfect alibi. He was in another state when it happened. But I didn't die. And Ethan didn't either. And he doesn't know yet. The way she said that made something click in my head. You're suggesting that you let him think the plan worked. For now, she leaned forward. Mary, if you show up now, it will be his word against yours. Do you have proof? Witnesses? Anything more than the story of a 6-year-old who might have misunderstood a conversation? I had nothing, only the certainty in my heart and the fear in my son's eyes. But what about the men who set the house on fire? Won't the police investigate? They will. and they will conclude it was an accident, a short circuit, a gas leak, anything. Those men are professionals, Mary. They don't leave traces. She sighed. Robert planned this very well. The only flaw in his plan was that Ethan listened and that you believed him. Exactly. I looked at my son sleeping on the sofa, so small, so innocent, and yet he had saved our lives. So, what do? I can't just disappear. My documents, my ID, everything burned in the house. I don't have any money. I have nowhere to go. You have me, Jimena said. And do you have something Robert doesn't know you have? What? She smiled, a cold smile that showed me why my father trusted her. The truth, and time to prove it. Robert will be back tomorrow. He'll pretend to be devastated. He'll put on a show for the police and the neighbors. He'll look for the bodies. And when he doesn't find them, he'll know something went wrong. Yes, but by then we will already be 10 steps ahead. I didn't fully understand what she meant, but I was too exhausted to question, too exhausted to think. I could barely keep my eyes open. You and the boy will stay here today, she decided. There's a small room in the back. It's not much, but it has a bed. Tomorrow, we'll plan the next steps. Jimena, why are you doing this? Why help so much? She was quiet for a moment, looking at a spot past me, lost in some memory. Robert saved my life once, a long time ago, when my own husband tried to kill me. She returned her gaze to me. I know exactly what you're feeling right now, Mary. The shock, the betrayal, the fear. And I promised your father that if you needed me, I would be here. It's a debt I'm pleased to repay. I swallowed the tears that threatened to fall. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The game has just begun. I slept for maybe 3 hours, but it felt like 3 minutes. I woke up with Ethan shaking me, scared, asking where we were. It took me a few seconds to remember, and when I remembered, the reality crashed down on me like a bucket of cold water. My husband tried to kill me. No matter how many times I repeated that in my head, it still seemed unreal, surreal, as if it were a nightmare I was going to wake up from at any moment. But it wasn't, and the morning news proved it. Jimena knocked on the door of the little room at 7 a.m. Turn on the TV channel 2. There it was. Fire destroys home in luxury community. Family's fate still unknown. They showed the house, or what was left of it. Only black walls and smoking debris. Firefighters still working, sorting through remnants. And then they showed him, Robert, stepping out of a taxi amidst the confusion, with an expression I recognized, the one he used when rehearsing important speeches in front of the mirror. Calculated concern, measured horror. My wife, my son. For God's sake, someone tell me they weren't in there. He was shouting at the camera, the police officers, anyone who would listen. The reporter explained that he was traveling for work, that he had just landed and came straight to the scene. A desperate husband searching for his missing family, narrated with that grave news voice. I felt Ethan shrink beside me. He's lying, my son whispered. He's pretending to care. And he was. You could see it if you looked closely. The way he checked the cameras before collapsing in tears, how his eyes were dry, even with his hands covering his face. How he asked the firefighters, "Have you found the bodies yet?" With an urgency that wasn't of someone who has hope, but someone who needs confirmation. He wanted to make sure we were dead. Jimena turned off the television. He'll look for the bodies all day. When he doesn't find them, he'll start to suspect. We have maybe 24 hours before he realizes you escaped. And then he'll panic, and people in panic make mistakes. She sat on the edge of the bed, Mary, I need you to tell me, do you know the combination to the safe Robert has in the office? I thought for a moment. I know it. It's his birthday. Too obvious. But it works. Does he keep important documents there? I think so. I never paid much attention. We need those documents, especially if he was stupid enough to keep anything that connects him to the men he hired. But how? The house is surrounded by police now. It will be for a few hours, but tonight when he goes to the hotel, because he won't want to sleep in a burned house, we can go in. I looked at her, as if she were crazy. You want me to break into my own house? Technically, it's not trespassing if you live there. She smiled that cold way again. And besides, we're going to need proof, evidence, something solid that proves Robert planned this. It made sense. A terrifying kind of sense, but it made sense. I'm going with you, Ethan suddenly said. No way, you're staying here. Mom, I know where Dad hides things. His voice was small but determined. There are places you don't know about. I know because I observe. I always observe. And he really did observe. My quiet son, whom everyone thought was shy, was actually incredibly attentive. He noticed things I missed. He's right, Jimena nodded. Children see what adults ignore. If there's something hidden, he'll know where to look. In life, sometimes the quiet observer possesses the deepest wisdom. Always value the insights of the people around you, especially the quiet ones, for they often hold the key to the truth you are too busy to notice. Kindness and good behavior are rooted in attentive awareness. I didn't like the idea. I didn't want to expose Ethan to danger again, but I also knew we needed evidence, and time was running out. The day dragged by slowly. We stayed locked in the office, watching the news, watching Robert perform his theater. He gave interviews to 3 different channels, always with the same story. A devastated businessman searching for his family, the hope of a father, the anguish of not knowing, lies. It was all a lie. Through the security cameras of the community, which Jimena had access to through a contact, we saw Robert being taken to the station to give a statement. We saw him return and stand in front of the destroyed house for hours, talking to neighbors, to police officers, to anyone who showed up. And then, finally, when the sun began to set, we saw him get into a car and leave. Now, Jimena said. She gave me dark clothes, gloves, a small flashlight. She did the same with Ethan. We looked like thieves about to commit a robbery. And in a way, that's exactly what it was. We drove in silence until we were near the community. But we didn't enter through the front. Jimena knew a passage in the back, where the wall was lower, and there were no cameras. Perks of having defended the builder in his divorce, she explained. We climbed the wall. Well, she and I climbed. We passed Ethan over. It was dark on the other side. The smell of smoke was still strong. 20 minutes, Jimena whispered. You go in, take what you need, get out. I'll stay here on watch. I took Ethan's hand, and we walked to the house, or what was left of it. The back door, the kitchen door, was partially burned, but still opened. We went inside. God, the destruction was total. The walls black, the ceiling partially collapsed, the smell of ashes and chemicals. Everything that was my life was destroyed. But we didn't have time to mourn. The office, I whispered to Ethan. Where is it? He guided me, passing through the destroyed living room, climbing the precarious steps of the stairs. Robert's office was on the 2nd floor, and miraculously it hadn't burned as much as the rest. The door was stuck, but I managed to force it open. The safe was there, built into the wall behind a painting. I dialed Robert's birthday. Beep, green light, open. Inside were documents, a lot of cash, probably for illegal payments, and an old cell phone. "Take everything," Ethan's voice came from the other side of the room. "Mom, look here." He was pointing under a loose floorboard, a hiding place I would never have known existed. I lifted the board. Inside was another cell phone, a black notebook, and an envelope. I grabbed everything hastily, stuffing it into the backpack I had brought. "Come on, fast." We were almost at the door when we heard it. Voices, downstairs. "Are you sure no one is here?" "Yeah, the police already cleared the site. We're just checking." My blood froze. I looked at Ethan. He was pale. We couldn't go down. Whoever it was blocking our only exit. I grabbed Ethan in my arms and we ducked inside the office closet. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they would hear us. Through the crack in the closet door I could see the light of flashlights coming up the stairs. 2 men. They weren't police. I recognized the voices. They were the same men who had set the house on fire. "The boss said to verify if the job was completed," one of them said, a deep voice with a southern accent. "Looks like they haven't found bodies yet." Impossible. The fire was strong enough for nothing to be left. Maybe they already took them to the medical examiner. Better make sure. Check the rooms. I heard footsteps separating, one going towards the master bedroom, the other coming in our direction. The office door opened. Ethan squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. I bit my lip to keep from making any sound. The man came in, the flashlight beam sweeping the room. He stopped at the open safe. "Hey, Mark, come see this." The other one appeared. "What's up?" "The safe is open. It wasn't like this when we left." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. We didn't even touch the safe. We just set the fire and left." Tense silence. "Someone was here," the one called Mark concluded. "Recently. The dust around is disturbed. Think it was the cops?" "Cops don't steal money. And look, there are footprints, small ones." He pointed the flashlight at the floor. "Too small for an adult." My stomach dropped. "Kid," the first man said slowly. "You think that?" "I think we have a problem." Mark pulled a cell phone from his pocket. "I'm going to call the boss. He needs to know." I couldn't allow it. If he called Robert, if he told him someone had been there, that it was possibly us. But what could I do? I was locked in a closet with my 6-year-old son, unarmed, with no way out. That's when I heard the scream. It came from outside. A female scream, loud, of sheer terror. "What the heck was that?" Mark darted downstairs. The other man went after him. I didn't waste any time. I grabbed Ethan in my arms and ran. I went down the stairs so fast I almost tripped. The back door was open. They must have come in through there. We went out. We ran to the wall. Jimena was there, panting. "Was that you who screamed?" I asked as I helped her over the wall. "You needed them out of there. Did it work?" "Yes." I showed her the backpack. "I took everything." We ran to her car, parked 2 blocks away. Only when we were inside, doors locked, engine running, and driving away, could I breathe. "Those men saw someone touch the safe," I said. "They'll tell Robert." "Excellent." I looked at her like she was crazy. "What do you mean, excellent? Now he'll know you're alive. He'll know you have the evidence. He'll panic." She smiled as she drove. "And people in panic make huge mistakes." I didn't know if I agreed with her logic, but I was too exhausted to argue. Back at the office, we emptied the backpack onto the desk. Documents, cell phones, money, the black notebook. Jimena picked up the notebook first. She opened it. She began to read, and the more she read, the wider her smile became. "Bingo," she murmured. "What is it? Is your husband meticulous, or was he just dumb?" "Probably both." She turned the notebook toward me. "Look at this. Dates, amounts, names. He documented every dollar he borrowed, from whom and when he had to pay. He even had notes about conversations with the lenders. I skimmed the pages. Everything was there. Every debt, every threat he received. And then, on the last pages, final solution. I read out loud, life insurance for Mary, $2 million. Accident must look natural. Contact, Mark. Service, $50,000, half up front. Date, November 21st. It was today, or rather, it was yesterday. He wrote everything down, I whispered in disbelief. Why would anyone do that? Insurance, Jimena explained. If something went wrong, he could use this as leverage against the guys he hired, prove that they were also involved. She picked up one of the cell phones, and I bet there's even more evidence on these phones. Conversations, calls. It took all night to examine everything. The cell phones were password protected, but Jimena had a contact who managed to unlock them, and there was everything. Messages between Robert and Mark. Needs to be a day I'm traveling. Solid alibi. It has to look accidental. Fire is good, hard to trace. And the kid? Mark had asked. Him too. Can't leave anyone. Him too. Robert had written coldly about killing our son, as if it were a minor detail, an inconvenience to solve. I felt the hatred grow inside me, a cold hatred, cutting. I was no longer the woman who had married believing she had found love. I was a mother protecting her child, and mothers are dangerous when their children are threatened. Is this enough to arrest him? I asked. Enough to arrest, convict, and throw away the key, Jimena confirmed. But we need to do it right. If we hand this over to the wrong police, Robert has enough money and connections to make it disappear, or worse, to make you disappear. So what do we do? She thought for a moment. I know a detective, honest, incorruptible, from the homicide division. If we present the case to him, with all this evidence, Robert has nowhere to run. When? Tomorrow morning. But before that, she looked at her cell phone. Your husband has already tried to call you 7 times in the last hour and sent you 15 messages. I picked up my cell phone. It was on silent, but the screen was lighting up with notification after notification. Mary, for God's sake, where are you? Honey, I'm desperate. Please answer me. The police said they didn't find your body. Where are you? Are you hurt? Mary, answer me. And the most recent one, sent 5 minutes ago. I know you're alive, and I know you took the stuff from the safe. We need to talk. Urgent. The mask had fallen. He knows, I said. Perfect. Answer him. What? Are you crazy? Answer him. Tell him you want to meet him, in a public place, tomorrow morning. Why? Jimena smiled. That smile I learned to fear and admire at the same time. Because we're going to give him a chance to hang himself. I wrote the reply with trembling fingers. Central Park, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Come alone. Robert's response came in seconds. I'll be there. Mary, we need to talk. Things are not how you think. They're not how I think. As if I were the crazy one in the story. As if I hadn't seen 2 men burn down my house with my own keys. Perfect, Jimena said. Tomorrow morning you'll meet him, but you won't be alone. She explained the plan. It was risky, maybe insane, but it could work. The detective she knew, Detective Miller, agreed to help when she called and explained the situation. He would place plainclothes officers in the park. Eavesdroppers, cameras. All we needed was to get Robert to confess. He's never going to confess knowing he might be recorded, I argued. He doesn't need to confess with words, she countered. He just needs to act, and desperate men always act. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the encounter, what I would say, how I would look into the eyes of the man who tried to kill me and pretend normalcy. Ethan slept beside me, finally at peace after days of terror, At least one of us could rest. At 9:30 a.m. the next morning, we were positioned, me sitting on a bench in Central Park with a coat that had a microphone built in. Ethan was safe in the office with Jimena, watching everything through cameras the police installed. Detective Miller and his team were scattered throughout the park, disguised as homeless people, hot dog vendors, people walking their dogs. And then I saw Robert. He showed up promptly at 10 a.m. He was wearing wrinkled clothes, probably the same ones from yesterday. Deep, dark circles under his eyes, unshaven beard. For the first time since I met him, he looked human, vulnerable. But I knew the truth. He saw me and practically ran over. "Mary, thank God you're okay." He tried to hug me. I backed away. "Don't touch me." The mask slipped for a second. I saw rage in his eyes before he quickly reverted to concern. "Honey, I know you're scared, but you have to listen to me." "Listen to you?" "Listen to you say what, Robert? That it was all a mistake? That the men who burned down our house with our keys were just burglars?" He blinked, calculating. "You? You saw?" "I saw everything. I was there. Ethan and I. We saw everything." He turned pale. He looked around, nervous. "Not here. Let's go somewhere private." "I'm not going anywhere with you." I kept my voice firm even though my heart was pounding. "Talk here now. Why did you try to kill me?" "I didn't. It wasn't like that." He ran a hand through his hair. "Mary, you don't understand. I'm in trouble. I owe a lot of money to very dangerous people. They threatened you. They threatened Ethan. So you decided to kill us first? What kind of logic is that?" "No. I was going to get you out of the country. With the insurance money, we could start over somewhere else, far away from those guys." It was such a blatant lie, I almost laughed. "Are you talking about the insurance that only pays out if I die?" He froze. He realized the mistake. "Mary, I need you to give them back now. The black notebook? The evidence that you planned everything? You don't understand what you're doing. If you hand that over to the police, I go down. And if I go down, the guys I owe will come after you. Either way, you're not safe. But at least it won't be you trying to kill me." The rage finally exploded. "You were always so naive. Why do you think I married you? For love? You were a spoiled rich kid with mommy's money. That's all it ever was." It hurt. Even knowing it was true, it hurt to hear it. And Ethan? Was our son also just for the money? The brat. He spat the words. He was always strange. Too quiet, observing everything. Weird kid. And there it was. The true hatred. It wasn't just about money. He truly despised us. That's when I heard it, coming from the earpiece in my ear. "We have enough. Team, go in." Suddenly, the homeless people got up. The vendors dropped their carts. Everyone converged on Robert with badges in hand. "Robert Fuentes, you are under arrest." His face went through 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, confusion, rage, fear, and finally, acceptance. He had lost. But before they could handcuff him, he did something no one expected. He ran. He sprinted through the park, knocking people over, jumping benches. The police went after him, but he had a head start, and he was running in my direction. I didn't have time to react. He grabbed me, pulled something from his waistband, a knife, and pressed it against my throat. "Nobody moves," he shouted. His voice was unrecognizable. "Or I kill her. I swear I'll kill her." Detective Miller stopped 3 feet away, hands raised. "Calm down, Robert. You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do. She ruined everything. Everything." The blade pressed harder. I felt a trickle of blood run down. My brain panicked, but then I remembered Ethan. my son watching everything. I couldn't let him see me die. "Robert," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "you're not going to do this. Don't tell me what I will or won't do. You're not going to do it because you're a coward. You always have been. Cowards don't kill in plain sight. They hire other people, and you even failed at that." The knife trembled in his hand, and in that second of distraction something happened. A shot, not to kill, but to incapacitate. A sniper I hadn't even seen hit Robert's hand. The knife fell. He screamed in pain, and in seconds he was on the ground, handcuffed, surrounded by police officers. I fell to my knees, shaking. Detective Miller helped me up. "It's over. It's done." But it didn't feel like it was over. Nothing felt real. I watched Robert being dragged to the patrol car. He was screaming, kicking, threatening. "This isn't over, Mary. You're going to pay. You're going to pay." Empty. All his threats were empty now. Robert's trial was quick. With all the evidence, the notebook, the cell phones, the recordings of our meeting, the statement of the men he hired, who made a plea deal, there was no possible defense. They tried to plead temporary insanity. They tried to say he was being coerced by the loan sharks. They tried everything. It didn't work. Robert was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Aggravated attempted murder, 2 counts, arson, fraud. The list was long. I didn't go to the trial. I didn't want to see his face ever again. But Jimena did go. She sent me a message when the sentence came down. Justice served. Justice. The word felt strange, because it didn't seem fair that 8 years of my life had been a lie. It didn't seem fair that my son had to grow up knowing his own father tried to kill him. But at least we were alive and free. In the following months, I had to rebuild everything, literally everything: documents, identity, bank account, house. I managed to get access to the house insurance money. Ironic, since Robert had burned it down to get other insurance. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start over. Jimena helped me with all the paperwork. More than that, she became a friend. Maybe the first true friend I ever had. "Your father knew you were going to need me one day," she told me one afternoon, drinking coffee in the new apartment I rented. "He made me promise to look out for you." How did he know? About Robert? Father's intuition, she smiled. Or maybe he saw things that you, being in love, chose not to see. Little signs, the way Robert looked at your family's money, how he asked about inheritances, how he got annoyed when you talked about working. She was right. The signs were always there. I was the one who chose to ignore them. Ethan started therapy. At first, he didn't want to talk about what happened, but over time, little by little, he started to open up. The therapist said he was resilient. Children are stronger than we imagine. But even strong, he had nightmares. He would wake up screaming, saying there was fire, that he couldn't get out, that his dad was coming. On those nights, I stayed with him. I hugged him. I sang him the songs I used to sing when he was a baby. And slowly, he would go back to sleep. "Mom," he asked me one night a few months after the trial, "do you still love Dad?" The question caught me off guard. "Why do you ask that?" "Because he was bad, really bad. But he's still my dad, and I don't know if it's wrong to miss him sometimes." My heart broke. I pulled him into a tight hug. "It's not wrong, my love. He's your dad. And the part of him you knew, the part that played with you, that took you to the park, that part felt real. And it's okay to miss that. But he tried to hurt us. He tried. And that was horrible and unforgivable. But your feelings are your own. You can miss the dad you thought you had and still be angry about what he did. Both things can exist together." He stayed quiet for a while. Then he whispered, "I saved you, didn't I, Mom?" "You did. You saved me, and you saved yourself. You're my hero, Ethan." He smiled, a small but genuine smile, and in that moment, I knew we were going to be okay. Not immediately, not magically, but eventually. I started working again, something Robert never allowed. I got a job at a nonprofit that helped women survivors of domestic violence. It seemed appropriate. I understood what they were going through. The fear, the shame, the feeling that somehow it was their fault. And I could say, from the heart, "It's not your fault. It never was." Jimena offered me a partnership at her firm after a year. "You have a talent for this, and passion. It would be a waste not to use it." I accepted. I went back to school. I took an accelerated law course. I took the bar exam. It wasn't easy. At 34 years old, going back to books is challenging, but I passed, and I became a lawyer, specializing in family law and domestic violence cases. I used the pain to help other people, and in a way, that helped heal my own pain. 3 years after the fire, we moved into a real house, small, simple, but ours. Ethan chose his own room. He painted the walls blue. Not Star Wars, Mom. I'm too old for that now. He filled it with posters of astronauts. "When I grow up, I'm going to be an astronaut," he announced. "Or a scientist. Haven't decided yet." I laughed. "You can be both." "Really? You can do that. You can do anything you want, son." And I believed that, because we had survived the impossible. What was a little ambition compared to that? Once in a while, I thought about Robert, mainly when signing the divorce papers, which he contested, of course, but lost, or when I saw news about him in prison. Apparently, he wasn't adjusting well. Did I feel sorry? No. Rage, sometimes, but mostly, nothing. He had become irrelevant, a footnote in my story, not the main chapter. Life went on. Ethan grew up. I grew up with him. I learned to trust again, not blindly, never blindly again, but wisely. I learned that red flags exist for a reason, that listening to your gut isn't paranoia. And I learned that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who can hurt us the deepest. But I also learned that we can survive it, and even thrive. Today marks 5 years since that night at the airport. 5 years since Ethan whispered, "Don't go home," and changed our lives forever. I'm sitting on the patio of our house drinking coffee. Ethan, now 11 years old, is in the living room doing homework. It's Saturday, but he likes to get ahead of the work. "Mom," he calls out, "can I go to Louis's house after lunch?" "You can, but be back before 6 p.m. "Okay." I smile into my coffee. He has friends now, good friends. He stopped being that quiet, scared boy. He's still observant. He always will be. But he also laughs, plays, lives, like every child should live. My cell phone rings. It's Jimena. We dropped the formalities a long time ago. "Good morning. You're up early today." "I have news," she says. I can hear the smile in her voice. "Remember that case we took last month, Fernanda?" I remember. 40-year-old woman, abusive husband, 3 kids, no money to leave the house. We did it. Protection order approved. She and the kids are already in the shelter, safe. I close my eyes, feeling that warmth in my chest. That's so great, truly great. That's why we do this, right? For these moments? Yes. We hang up, and I stay there thinking, how many women have we managed to help in these years? How many children did we save? Not as dramatically as Ethan and I were saved, but saved nonetheless. From toxic relationships, from abuse, from dead ends. We transformed our tragedy into purpose. "Mom?" Ethan appears in the doorway. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." He sits in the chair beside me. He's bigger now, growing too fast for my liking. Soon he'll be taller than me. Are you happy? The question surprises me. I am. Why do you ask? He shrugs. Just wanted to know, because I thought maybe you'd be sad forever. I take his hand. It's not as small as it used to be. I was sad for a while, yes, and I still get sad sometimes, when I remember. But I'm also happy, because I have you. I have a job I love. I have real friends. I have a life that I chose, not one someone chose for me. And Dad? Have you forgiven him? That's a harder one. I don't know if I forgave him. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or saying everything is okay. Maybe it's more about letting go, no longer carrying that weight. And in that, yes, I think I succeeded. He nods, processing. I think so too. I don't think about him much, only sometimes, when I remember how he used to be. But then I remember that wasn't real, and it gets easier. What wisdom for an 11-year-old. But Ethan was never an ordinary child. He grew up too fast. He saw too much. But he survived. And more than that, he flourished. I love you so much. Did you know that? I tell him, hugging him. Me too, Mom. He hugs me back. Then he pulls away. Can I go back to my homework? I only have math left. You can. He goes back inside and I stay there, on the patio, watching the sun rise in the sky. I think about how strange life is. 5 years ago, I was losing everything, or believing I was. The house, the marriage, the security. But in reality, I was gaining something more important. Freedom. Freedom to be myself, to make my own decisions, to build a life based on truth, not pretty lies. And yes, it hurts. Sometimes it still hurts. There are nights I wake up sweating, dreaming of fire. There are days I see a man in the distance who looks like Robert, and my heart races. Trauma doesn't disappear completely. We learn to live with it. But we also learn that we are stronger than we imagine, that we can survive the unimaginable, that we can rebuild from the ashes, literally, in my case. My phone vibrates again. Message from the support group I coordinate for domestic violence survivors. Thank you for yesterday's meeting. For the first time, I felt like I'm not alone. I reply, you never were, and you never will be. We're in this together. It's for these messages that I do what I do, because I know what it's like to feel alone, trapped, with no way out. And I know what it's like to find a helping hand when you need it most. Like my father gave me when he left me Jimena's card. Like Jimena gave me when she took me in. Like Ethan gave me when he had the courage to speak up, even being so small. We don't save ourselves alone. We need each other. And now I give back. I extend my hand to other women who are where I was, and I lift them up. The sun is fully out now. A new day, a new opportunity. I stand up. I go inside. Ethan is at the table, concentrated on the numbers. He doesn't notice when I walk over and kiss the top of his head. Mom, he protests, but he's smiling. I'm trying to focus here. I'm sorry. I won't bother you anymore. I go to the kitchen to prepare lunch. Something simple. Mac and cheese, Ethan's favorite food. While stirring the sauce, I hear him humming in the living room. Humming. A child who witnessed an attempted murder, who lost his home, who saw his father arrested. He's humming while doing his math homework. If that's not resilience, I don't know what is. And it gives me hope. Hope that no matter what life throws at us, we can survive. We can overcome. We can even be happy again. Not in the same way, not as we were before, but in a new way. Stronger, wiser. The oven timer goes off. I turn it off. I start serving the plates. Ethan, lunchtime. He appears running, as he always does when it's time to eat. He sits at the table with that wide smile. What's for dessert? Apple pie. If you eat all your lunch first. I can do that in my sleep. We laugh. We eat. We talk about the week, about the plans for the weekend, about the science project he's doing in school. Normal things, normal life. And it's beautiful, after everything. It's beautiful to have that normalcy back. After lunch, Ethan goes to his friend's house. I do the dishes, tidy the house, answer some work emails. Routine. Wonderful, mundane routine. In the afternoon, when Ethan comes back, we watch a movie together, a silly animated one that makes me laugh. He complains that it's kid stuff, but he laughs too. And when night falls, when I tuck him in, even though he complains that he's too big for that now, he gives me a tight hug. Mom? Yes? Thank you. For what, sweetie? For believing me. That day at the airport. If you hadn't believed me. But I did believe you, and I'm always going to believe in you. He smiles. He settles into bed. Good night, Mom. Good night, my hero. I turn off the light. I close the door, and for the first time in 5 years, I don't feel afraid of tomorrow, because no matter what comes, I know we will face it, together, and we will survive, as we always survive. Now, if you like this story, click subscribe, and tell me in the comments what part left your jaw dropped. Oh, and don't forget to join as a member to get access to exclusive videos that I don't upload here. I'll see you there. This journey proves that the deepest betrayals can forge the most profound strengths. We learn that trust must be earned, not simply given due to a title like husband or wife. The true foundation of a happy life is built not on wealth or social image, but on radical honesty and unwavering self-reliance. We must change our tendency to ignore small warnings in favor of comfortable lies. Those tiny red flags are often the loud screams of our intuition, trying to save us. To build a better future, we must commit to always listening to the quietest voice, especially our children's, and our own gut feeling, and to transform our pain into a purpose that helps others rise from their own ashes. Our survival story is a testament to the powerful, transformative force of resilience and the unwavering bond between a mother and her child.